See John. And that's enough about me. Let's go for it. Although it was not his first role, he started his rise to fame in Road to Perdition as Michael Sullivan Jr., pulling his weight alongside Tom Hanks. Steady work followed as Martin Brewer on Seventh Heaven. Film and television roles followed, including the series Teen Wolf as Derek Hale. More TV and film roles until he made a strong debut in the Arrowverse as Superman. Leading up to the debut of Superman and Lois the series, all of that is just the highlights. Let's fill in the gaps and have an amazing round of applause for our guest, Tyler Hoechlin!
Hello, everybody. How's it going? This is very exciting and cool to be in Metropolis, finally, for the first actual time. It's very nice. It's good to see y'all.
Well played.
Thank you.
I suppose the obligatory beginning is just we just do a little background check. You're going to tell us how you got to this exact moment in a really precise way. No. Let's go with the simple stuff. I know that sports was a big part of your life, and now acting is. So can you take us back a few years, because there was like, I'm going to do this, well then I'm doing that. So let's hear the early years a little bit.
I mean, the early years, it feels weird now, but when I started acting, I was 8, and at the time I felt like I was getting a really late start in life, because I've been playing baseball since I was like 3, so I felt like I was a little bit behind, but I've been doing both since I was really young. Baseball was always my first love and the thing I wanted to do more than anything, so I pursued that through college. I played 3 years of Division I ball in college, and then eventually just got to the point where I had a really great coach. Anybody here follow college baseball at all, any chance? Yeah? Okay. Does anybody know who Coach Gillespie is from the USC? He's like, probably not. Long time. He coached for like decades before I played for him. My 3rd year of college, and I had a conversation with him that just finally kind of gave me weirdly like permission to go and pursue acting full time, because I'd always chosen baseball over that for as long as I could remember, and it's been my full-time thing ever since. So I've been doing it for about 27 years now, which is weird, but it's been my full-time thing for the last 15 or so. So
The coach giving you permission sounds like pretty strong mentor relationship there.
Yes, he was a phenomenal coach, phenomenal mentor, and basically I had said to him, like, look, I'm never going to be done playing baseball. If I hadn't had acting, I would have been Crash Davis, for anybody who knows that reference, Bull Durham. I would have played minor league ball till I couldn't walk anymore and been happy with it. So I love playing. But he'd give me some really good advice, which was, look, if you stay and finish, will you get drafted? Probably, but 1% of guys who get drafted make a living playing baseball.
Right.
He's like, I think you've got a unique opportunity in LA where people don't always get it, and so I would encourage you to see what you can do with that. So that was kind of my blessing to say, okay, I wouldn't give it up right now, but someone who's been doing this for a really long time is giving me some very good advice, and I'm gonna take it. So.
Yeah. I feel like we could just have this casual, personal talk quite a bit, but we do have a time limit, so I think we have some prepared questions. I have a pen flying across the stage. Thank you. See how quick you did that? And we have time for some audience questions as well. So I'm just going to hit a couple of them.
Cool.
Oh, look, I'm going to start with my own question. I wanted to know, because you were age 15 in Road to Perdition, is that correct?
13.
13.
Yeah.
The Hollywood version of driving versus the reality of driving.
Yeah.
Because you're on a sled and all that. Could you kind of elaborate on what that was in that time of your life? Because it wasn't long after that you would have been driving on your own for real.
Yeah, no, I had to learn to drive before anything. So I actually did. Like, my first 3 weeks of being in Chicago was learning how to drive. So I learned how to drive. The car I learned to drive was a 1930 Model A, and then the car I drove in the movie was a Buick. I actually, this was an embarrassing story. I not fought, but we had a disagreement with Jay Leno when he was still doing his show, because he had asked me about what car I drove in the movie, And I said it was a 1930 Model A, and he's like, oh, I thought it was a Buick. I was like, no, it was a 30 Model A. He's like, oh, okay, I thought it was a Buick. And if anybody knows Jay Leno, he has like 3,000 cars. He's a bit of an expert on the subject. And so on live television, I debated Jay Leno about what car I was driving in the movie. That was a good look. But we did come to an agreement. I said, oh yeah, no, I learned to drive on the Model A, and then in the movie we drove the 28 Buick.
Yeah, he kind of had a little trouble letting that go, didn't he? 'Cause you don't mess with him in cars.
No, you don't. No.
That's a pretty decent impression, though. But you did it a little bit higher, though. You know, Jay Leno.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. I wouldn't dare do the Leno.
Supergirl is going to be taking the microphone around, and while she heads for the first person, we have some online questions that were submitted, and I think this is a really good one. Going cutting straight through. Aaron Sullivan wants to know, I'm sure you get this question all the time, but what was it like for you when you first put on the suit?
Yeah, it's a surreal moment because I think everyone's, I don't know, the only time I would have imagined myself in that suit would have been like at Halloween before. So to actually have it on and then realize it's going to be on camera and the whole thing, it's it's a very strange feeling in the same way that like the first time my brother's like, so you're gonna be Superman. I was like, yeah, I guess so. I don't know how you say yes to that and just keep a straight face. So it was definitely a very surreal thing, but I think more than anything, it's always been very cool to me, especially like seeing it here. Obviously, like how much this character means to everyone here and to so many people around the world for such a long time. It was just a really cool moment of like knowing that you were stepping into the shoes of something that's had its legacy for so long before you and will continue after you. And so that was like a cool, just kind of crazy moment of like, wow, this is actually happening. So
That's awesome. Where would that fit into your introduction to comics or characters or Superman himself? Where were you before all of this came out?
Honestly, not that deep into it. I'm trying to remember the first time that I felt like comfortable enough at a Q&A to say that I had never seen any Superman stuff before. Yeah, I know. Maybe some of you are hearing that for the first time. I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. No, so I just didn't really grow up with I knew the character, obviously, but I was playing baseball really competitively, going to school like every kid does, and then also working as an actor from a really young age, and so I just didn't have a ton of time for other interests, and so Superman, I was always very aware of it, very much, but just had never really seen anything. And then when I got the job, I kind of made the very, very strong, direct decision to stay away from any of it, just because of the way my mind works and everything. If I would have seen anything that I liked, I would have felt like I couldn't do it anymore because it's already been done, and vice versa, to see something and be like, oh, maybe don't do that. I wanted to be able to go to work every day, see what's on the page, see what's in the script, and just commit to whatever idea I had in the moment on that day without feeling like, oh, so-and-so already did that, so I can't. So it's a little bit easier in that way. And I actually tell directors sometimes, I'm like, hey, if I do something specific in this scene that you like, do not point it out to me, because chances are I hardly know I'm doing it. And once you tell me, you'll never get it again, because then it's in the back of your mind the whole time and it's not just kind of happening. So, yeah.
That's a fine line and a curse for anyone creative. You're like, oh, breakthrough moment. And then you turn on the TV and you're like, oh. And you're like, should I, or is mine different enough?
And that's the thing. So for me, it's like it's a blank slate, and as long as it works, and that's why I told my team, the team on the show, I was like, if it's working, great. If it's not, come tell me. But if there's like a specific moment that we're doing an Easter egg or an homage or something, like, just let me know, because I don't know. So you gotta help me out.
That's fair. First question for the audience today.
Well, it's technically two questions. What was it like fighting Brandon's Superman and having a scene with Tom Welling Clark Kent?
Insanely fun. I would say it was really fun to be back on that location with Tom. I run into Tom a couple times before we did that at some of the Comic Cons and things like that. Nice, all of them. Anybody I've met to do with any of these shows, all just the nicest people. So it was really fun to actually work with Tom after having met him a few times. And then with Brandon, it was really cool to see him like back in the suit and just I think it was just such like a joyful day to be doing that. And then of course we had to go and fight each other over it. But it was a good time. I think it was just like that whole experience with the crossovers was such a crazy and cool story to tell, and to be telling it on TV and just with all these great people, it was a really fun experience.
Thank you.
I'd like to say that your portrayal of Clark Kent reminds me so much of George Reeves, who I grew up with, and you're not playing a scared little cat, and I love that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very kind of you. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Thank you.
Can we, go ahead. No, I was sort of following up. Hi, Crystal. I think this segues. Ashlyn Thomas wants to know, how did you prepare for the role of a father in Superman and Lois? Because we're talking about character development.
Yeah. So I don't have kids. I'm not a dad yet. But I think one of my favorite things about this show and this role and playing Clark at this point in his life was it was really, for me, it's just been like a really great opportunity to kind of like pay homage to my dad.
Sure.
So I think there's a lot of things about Clark that I pull from him. So you see quite a bit of my pops and me and Clark. So yeah, I think just going back and asking him. I have friends who have kids, so speaking with them about certain situations, and it's been really fun because a lot of the crew members on our show, they have kids who are this age as the boys are on the series, and so it's a great dialogue and conversation on set. It's like my favorite moments are when we do something in a scene, and then either like our director of photography or the director or somebody, one of the grips, somebody goes like, dude, this was my last night. Like, I just had this argument with my kids 12 hours ago, and it was exactly like that. Like that's the coolest compliment to get, I think, when we're making the show, is from a crew member saying like, yep, I just went through this 24 hours ago, and that's pretty much how it goes.
Yeah, I think it's really solid to say there's a lot of moments that hit home, and not always easy ones.
Exactly.
Right?
First of all, thank you for coming to Metropolis.
Thank you for having me.
So my husband and I lay in bed and watch Superman and Lois every week. And our number one thing that we bring up every week is when you go to Suits, as it is, you have a 5 o'clock shadow both ways. It's the same. So I'm just curious, is that something anybody's ever said, or?
The 5 o'clock shadow?
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't that bad, is it?
No.
I'm kidding.
I got you right here.
Yeah.
This is my Thor impression. I see you copied my look.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is the, I'm calling this, so like in baseball we have like the rally beard or the rally uniform, whatever. I'm calling this my pickup beard. So like, until they tell us what we're doing with the show, I'm not going to touch it.
Well, let's hope it's a really short beard.
Just gonna let it go. So the funny thing was when we started the show, there was a conversation between me and Todd Helving, our amazing showrunner, and Lee Tolan Krieger, our incredible director of the pilot, and we were just trying to figure out the look for him, and it felt like, well, I was 33 when we started the show, playing a dad to 2 teenagers, so it was a bit of when I'm clean shaven, I do look a fair bit younger, so there was part of that was strategic in the sense just to make me look a little bit older. But then also we kind of like the idea that, this is him with kids while trying to do, like, the opening of the show is, there's not enough time in the day to do his job plus his other job plus be there for Lois and be there for the kids. So it just felt a little bit like, yeah, why not? Why would it not be just like, he hasn't had time to clean shave every day, trim everything. So, we wanted to play with that a little bit, and I think some people have maybe not loved it, but for me it feels right for the version of the character that we're doing in the show. So I don't mind.
It's okay.
I hope it's okay.
Every week, no matter what.
As long as you're talking about it, it's good.
Another one?
Hey man, love you on the show.
Thank you, brother.
This is not quite Superman related, but Road to Perdition, great movie.
Thank you.
I love,
Thank
next to Clint Eastwood, Paul Newman, probably one of my all-time favorite actors. So just a quick question, what was it like working with Paul Newman, and any fun stories about Paul Newman on the set?
Dude, Paul was awesome. All those guys, that entire group was just a really special cast, and so many people in that have done, I didn't want to say even more, but there's like, their careers have just gone. I mean, Daniel Craig and Jude Law, like there's so many amazing people, and every single one of them was just like consummate professional, super nice and welcoming to me as a kid on set. But Paul was just absolutely fantastic. Like, I could not, between him and Tom, who I worked with the most on that, I could not have at 13 asked for better role models as far as like how to be an actor, like on set, you know, and just everything through press. Just true gentlemen. They treated every single person on the crew like they were the financier. They're just the nicest people in the world, and none of it was fake. You know, they're just like really, really good people. I mean, I guess the coolest story I have from Paul is like I learned how to play craps from Paul Newman because we had to do that in the movie. So I was like, he was teaching me and Liam how to play craps because we didn't know the rules, and so he's like I got him. And so like we're just rolling dice with Paul during the setups and learning how to play. It was really fun. He's just the nicest guy. And the coolest thing was he always invited us to come out to his races every time he came through California when I was growing up, and unfortunately playing ball competitively, just we had tournaments every weekend because Southern California weather, you never have a weekend off really. So we never made it to a race, which I really wish we would have. But but that just kind of goes to show, I think the amount of times we said, no, I'm sorry, I can't make it, but still every time they came through, it was like, invitations open. Quickly though, fun Newman story. So we were shooting a scene, we go outside because they were turning around or getting ready for the next setup, and Paul had just come back into town. He's like, hey, do you want to see something cool? I was like, yeah. So me and my mom, we go and we walk back to the trailers, and then he takes us up into the room and puts this tape in the VCR, and all of a sudden there's do you guys know Gravedigger, the monster truck? Yeah. Anybody know that? So Gravedigger pops up, and I was watching a bit of that when I was younger, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, were you there? He's like, I'm driving it. I'm like, no way! Like, I'm 13, I'm geeking out, I think it's the coolest thing ever. And then all of a sudden they can't, so I think, oh cool, they let him drive around the track, that's cool. And then the camera pans off the thing over to like 15 cars lined up in like a little ramp. And all of a sudden it comes back to the truck, and he like pops a wheelie, goes for the ramp, and then just crushes 15 cars and comes down the other side of it. And I was like, oh my God. And he looks at me and my mom, he's like, don't tell the producers.
Followed by top that, Robert Redford.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was, just great guy, man. Couldn't say nicer things about it.
In a situation like that, and then going forward a little bit to, let's say, 7th heaven when you're still younger,
Yeah.
Are you more of a sponge and learning from others, or what was your like acting class kind of situation?
A little bit of everything. I started in classes when I was a kid, and then I think there's no better way to learn than time on the job. So watching those guys, for sure, I watched them a lot, and it was helpful in the end of that movie. There's an emotionally heavy scene for me, and I remember Sam came up to me, and this is the cool thing. Sam was a big cricket fan, and he knew I played baseball, so we played catch on set, and producers didn't like that either, but we played some catch on set, and so he just knew I was an athlete, and he really knew how to kind of get through to me. So on that last day, we were doing the scene, and I just wasn't quite getting there, and so he pulled me aside, and he's like, hey, just so you know, he's like, we're spending X amount of dollars every day that we're shooting this movie. And I was like, that's a lot of money. He's like, yeah. He goes, and everything you've done for the last 5 months means nothing if we don't get this scene right. He's like, so I need you to get it. And I was like, okay, done. So I didn't talk to anybody for the rest of the day. And I just did what I watched Tom do and Paul do, which is like when they had those scenes, they're in the thing, but then they kind of remove themselves and just go to a little bit more of a quiet, private place. And like as a kid, like the same thing, like you learn these things kind of when you're in class, but to see it in practice on set, when you've got to do that and maintain that for, oh my God, I don't know, 10, 12 hours, whatever it was, it's a long day. So just conserving energy and, politely removing yourself from everything. It would definitely help to have those guys as examples to learn from.
In that moment then, do you think the camera stopped when they were satisfied, or when you were sasatisfied, or did you hit it together? It was that strong.
At that point, I was just like tunnel vision. I was just doing it until they said move on. So just once they had it, and afterwards they sent me home, and Sam actually ran to catch me on the way out and just gave me a big hug and said, "You crushed it, you nailed it." And so that was really cool. But it was perfect. Like that's just the thing of like a director getting to know the actors and knowing what you need to get what you need out of them. And so for me, it was like, because sometimes I tell that story, people are like, "Oh my God, he said that to you?" I'm like, "Yeah, but he knew me for 5-6 months at that point." And he knew that I could handle that direct and that blunt of a thing. And I also think he knew that it would actually help me get to where I needed to get to. So
Right.
I loved it, and I loved every day of working with Sam. I would give anything to do it again. He was just amazing, absolutely amazing.
I have two things. First of all, hi, how are you doing?
Good, how you doing?
We need a fourth season. That's all. Come on, y'all. We need a fourth season. We need a fourth season. And secondly, it is, I don't know how you're doing it, this third season, of how you showing that vulnerability with what's going on with Lois. I mean, it's just, where are you pulling that from? I mean, it's just like, you're Kal-El, and you're not human, but you're showing that vulnerability. You're like, I have all these superpowers all in the world, and I can't save you.
Yeah.
I can't save you. So where are you pulling that from?
Life. That's just life. I mean, I haven't gone through. I lost my grandfather to cancer when I was a bit younger, but I haven't gone through something like that in this personal of a way that Clark's going through it on the show. But just life, just fear, grief about I think just trying to pull from those kind of things and recall what that's like, and I think that's, if anything, for me, it almost becomes a thing for Clark where it somehow feels worse when you do have so much at your disposal and still can't do anything. It's something when you just feel completely incapable to help in a situation and you know that from the beginning. There's a bit more of a, I don't know if there's an acceptance to it, but there's just an understanding. I had a friend the other day who was doing something, and had to go to the hospital, and I was like, saying to my friend, like, hey, I'm not a doctor, but if you need anything, let us know. There's nothing we can really do. You guys are at the hospital. But there's a removal from that because you can't. And with Clark, I think he has so much at his disposal that it's even all that more frustrating that he still feels that helpless. Honestly, great writing. The cast has been amazing. Working with Bitsy on this storyline, I can't imagine doing it with somebody else. And Bitsy and I are just so close as friends that going through it, you pull off of each other. And so our relationship is so strong. I think being able to work off of each other and just pull from the relationship we have is also really, really helpful for how heavy and vulnerable the storyline is this year.
Very good.
Hi, Tyler.
Hey, man.
This is going to be a real stupid question. But
I love stupid questions.
Okay, great. During the time you were Superman, you had 3 costumes, and one was absolutely phenomenal. That was the Max Fletcher suit. Any way that you can get into that suit permanently?
Permanently, like take it home? Okay. I don't know that we'd ever be able to permanently go back into that suit. I had a lot of fun in that suit. I had way more fun in that suit than I ever thought I would. It was really, really cool to put that on, especially when we used it in the pilot. I was so glad that it made another reappearance in some of the flashback stuff. That was really fun. Our costume department is amazing. They work so hard, and they're constantly making adjustments to make the suit more functional and user-friendly. So we kind of we have a really great team who works on that, and so we'll see. I don't know if we end up coming back, if there's going to be more flashback stuff. If there is, then hopefully we can do that, because I'm with you. I'm a fan of every time we can bring that suit back. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. Hopefully we get the pickup first.
Yeah, very good, very good. I made a note along the way here. Have you want the chance to combine your love of sports and acting? Is there like a sports biopic or something you'd like to do?
Yeah, I love sports. I love the stories that come out of sports. I like that there's a lot of these like docu-series that are coming out, because I think people that maybe aren't as into them are kind of maybe seeing why people who do follow them love them so much. It's like, it's not, I've had friends who are like, I don't understand how you are so into this game. I'm like, it's not the game that's going on today. It's like, it's the stories of the people. Like, I know that guy got injured 3 years ago, and they told him there was no way he'd play again, maybe never walk again. And then he went through like 3 surgeries, years of rehab, and is now like comeback player of the year, maybe gonna get the MVP. Like, that's just like a phenomenal human story. And it's just told through sports. Like, that's why I love it. So I love that these docuseries are doing that. But for sure, I've been able to play a baseball player in a few things, which has been really fun. I played like a tennis player in a short that I did years and years ago. But I would absolutely love to continue to do that for a long time. I think it's just great. I think there's great inspirational, motivational stories that are told through sports. So plenty of room for that, I think.
Yeah, and if no one else is going to do it, you're going to step up. You're going to get a little funding and direct something for us.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to. I would absolutely love to. Yeah.
Way in the back. Hi.
What made you want to be Superman other than being famous?
So I'll give you a really, really honest answer. Being famous is almost one of the reasons why I wasn't going to do it. It's a very weird thing, and people don't always necessarily understand this like, a lot of actors actually don't like attention. And I always put it this way: every other form of entertainment has a live audience. We don't. Like, I have my crew, and I have the people that I'm working with when we're shooting. But like, we're not on stage performing for an audience. Like, this is a different forum, obviously, but like, we're not in the theater where we have a live audience. We're not in the stadium playing where we have a live audience. So it's not a concert where you put on a show for a live audience. So for me, I love what I do, but the famous thing is, and I'm only saying this because this is a younger person asking it. Don't go after anything because of fame. It's a really, really bad decision, I promise you. So like, you'll be disappointed by that. But I wanted to play the character because I guess it is pretty simple. I grew up a very, very optimistic person when I was younger, and then I went through a very cynical phase in my 20s, and then I realized that sucks. And it's kind of like a choice of how you want to look at the world, and I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So I wanted to play a character that was eternally optimistic and eternally hopeful, and because I do think that, did anybody see Everything Everywhere All at Once? Yeah. It took me way too long to see that movie, but I finally saw that movie, and I just thought that was such a great message that was going through there when he says, like, this is how I choose to fight. And I thought that was such a cool way of putting it, because I do think that that's what it is. I think we go through things in life, and you can fight through anger, you can fight these things, or you can fight through kindness, you can fight through hope, you can fight through belief. And so for me, it just, I was realizing that I really wanted to play a character that offered all those things. And so when this job came around, it was at the right time. I think if it had come to me a few years earlier than it did, I probably wouldn't have felt like I was the guy to do it. But it found me at the right time. So it just felt like an opportunity that was asking to be taken, and so that's what we did.
Yeah. If you have less of a live audience experience as an actor in your general body of work, they yell cut, and you were like super happy, or you're just on the floor emotionally. You've got the director and a small crew to say, hey, good job, buddy, pat you on the back. Has it been difficult in the moment on any of those days to just walk out and go, I gotta go home now, and you're just like, I'm lost?
In what way? It's an interesting question, but I want to make sure I'm answering it right.
Separation of character and
Right.
person. You're like, I'm going for pizza. You can't always just flip that.
It depends. I mean, I had a great acting coach when I was younger. It did a really very simple but very, very good and useful exercise, which was you would stand like on basically something the size of this, like the width of this, that was like an inch off the floor. And you would stand on that, and then you would step off of it onto the ground. So it's like an inch of difference and a foot to your left. But he would say, step on, step off, step on, step off. And you would honestly just practice, like you would have the character that you were playing, and you would step on the stage, and you would convince yourself that you're the character. And then he would say, step off, and you step off, and you immediately turn it off. And just whatever you were thinking about during that, you let it go. And it was a really great exercise as far as like distancing yourself from the character you're playing and who you are. And so there's definitely scenes that you do as an actor where it requires, the more emotional scenes, some of the vulnerable scenes with Clark this year where, in between setups and in between takes, it takes more of a toll, you're a little bit more exhausted throughout the day. It does,